Hi there, I need to book in for my first scan for an IUI. I started my period today. It is the 28th of March and I have started my period this morning. I also had to do a final transition this morning, so I just said goodbye to the little one. So it's been a bit of a difficult day, and I thought my period was going to come tomorrow, not today, but I obviously miscalculated that. But anyway, I've started, which is great because it means cycle day 1, first cycle that hopefully, if everything goes well, I'll be able to try my first IUI. So I called the centre right now and they've booked me in for a scan on the 5th of April. So this is exciting. It feels like things are going ahead now, which is really great. Oh boy, do I have a lot to update you on. I genuinely can't remember the last clip I did before this one because this last week has been insane. So as far as I can currently remember, I left off with I'd called the clinic to book in for my initial scan for my IUI this month. I was on the first day of my period. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I had previously had a foster placement, a very short one, who left that same day that I started my period. And usually I would get a little bit of a break between foster placements, so I thought this is perfect timing. I'm going to have my period and then I'll do, my IUI scans, then maybe a couple of weeks later I'll get a phone call and I'll have a new foster placement and it'll work around that. It'll be great. Anyway, this happened to be the one time, I have heard of this happening for other people, but it's the first time it's happened to me, where I got a phone call the same day my last foster placement left, and I ended up saying yes. Now that placement didn't end up coming in on that day, but they did come in a couple of days later, and I honestly was really surprised about that, because when you get a phone call, you get some information about the child or children you're being asked to look after, and you say yes or no, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to come to you. There's the court case, there's lots of other variables that you just can't control. And so from my current experience and what I had read about this placement, I genuinely wasn't confident at all that they were going to be coming. So when they were coming, I was actually quite shocked, but it went ahead. Anyway, so I've been in the madness of saying goodbye to a foster placement and welcoming a new one. And for me, a lot of people talk about the ending being really difficult and how hard it is to say goodbye. And yeah, it's hard to say goodbye, but for me, by far the most difficult thing in fostering is the beginning, because you get a new child or children who you know nothing about virtually that comes to stay with you. You don't know what they like to eat, you don't know what their routine is, their habits, you know nothing a lot of the time about them, and that I find really stressful because you've got to just figure it out. So that's where I've been the last few days, just trying to find my feet with a new placement, and I'm finally getting there. But I did have to come to the decision that I decided not to go ahead with my IUI this month. As you may remember from my ramblings earlier on in these videos, I had debated whether or not I actually even wanted to do April because of the timing would be so close to Christmas, and it was only when I couldn't do last month because of the rubella shot and my thyroid that I decided I would go ahead and do this month after all. But I think this was kind of like a sign that actually I shouldn't do it. It just felt like too much. The thought of going for scans and then having an IUI and still dealing with a relatively new placement, still finding my feet, just was overwhelming to me. And I was like, this is silly, because I need to be mentally and physically in the right place for this to do the IUI anyway, rather than just feeling really stressed, because that's not going to help me get pregnant either. So sorry about the noise in the background, my dishwasher's going, but this is the only time I can ever find to film now in the evenings, now that I have some fosterlings here. But yesterday is April 12th today, and yesterday I had an email from my patient coordinator, basically letting me know that because I was now delaying my IUI until June, I would need to have another ultrasound scan done, just a general scan, before I could go ahead, because they don't like to go more than 3 months between scans. My first one was done in January when I had my initial consultation, and so I'd need to have another one done before June. However, I was thinking, this is the first time, I know these fertility clinics are quite notorious for adding on things to make money, because they're not as well regulated as other parts of the medical field, and of course it's private, so you have to pay. But this is the first time with my clinic that I've really felt like this feels like a money-making thing. I could understand every 6 months maybe, particularly if I'd had prior conception issues that we were aware of, but 3 months, and it just felt a bit I'm not too sure about that. So anyway, I went back to my patient coordinator and said, well, I had a Hycosi scan done in February, which is a very fully invasive procedure where they scan everything. So surely, if I've had that done within 3 months, it should be okay. And I'm planning to go ahead with my May cycle, which my period starts on the 25th of April. So that's when that cycle would start. And basically, long story short, message back with her. She came back to me today, and I also phoned the clinic just to confirm it. But I don't need to have a scan done for this IUI, but if this one doesn't work, then I will need to have another one done for my next IUI. So just all these little things keep kind of getting slotted in, I'm not expecting. So I wanted to kind of document that. As of right now, I don't need to pay for it, but it would be another £185 if I do. But it's just annoying that these things keep popping up. So yeah, it's the first time I've really experienced this properly with this clinic, though. I always knew there were going to be other costs, but this is the first one I really hadn't like foreseen, I think. So my period's late. Of course, the cycle where I'm finally ready to get going, I'm absolutely sure, like, this is the time I'm ready to start. The timings work, like, due date wise, if it was to work, it wouldn't be around Christmas, which I was, as you know, gone back and forth over. I've got my fosterling settled down, I feel ready to go ahead, all good to go. Period hasn't shown up. So it is currently Wednesday the 27th of April. You'll have to excuse my washing machine in the background, it never goes off at the moment. My period was originally due on Monday. That would have been a 28-day cycle, which is pretty typical for me to have an exact 28-day cycle. It didn't come then, and to be honest, I'm not entirely surprised because I didn't carefully monitor my ovulation this month at all. I think I did a couple of ovulation tests roughly around day 13, 14 of my cycle, but I didn't track it because I thought, well, there's no point. A, I'm really busy with fostering, and B, I'm not going to be trying this month. I'd rather save my ovulation tests for next month. So I didn't. Now, I do have another way of kind of being able to tell roughly when I ovulate, which is that I get pain in one of my hips, usually about a day after I get a positive ovulation test, so after my luteal hormone spikes, which is typical with what actually happens with ovulation. You get your positive test and then you ovulate about 24 hours to 48 hours later. So day 14 comes, day 15, day 16, no pain, and I'm like, okay, maybe I missed it, maybe it was in my sleep, maybe that's what happened. Day 17 comes, day 18, nothing. Then on day 19 of my cycle, I get that pain in my hip, like that. It's kind of like a dull, strong ache. It's very specific, and I know it's ovulation because it doesn't feel like anything else. And I was there absolutely baffled because I was like, this is day 19. I double checked on my app and everything. Day 19 of my cycle, which means I potentially didn't actually ovulate until around day 17, 18. The latest I've ever ovulated when I was testing my ovulation before I went on the pill was day 16 of my cycle. That's the latest I ever ovulated before. So if I ovulated on day 18, that's a new record for me to be ovulating that late. It doesn't really mean anything other than the fact that I ovulated later, but of course, what I do know is that when I ovulate later, I tend to start my period later too. So this is why it's taking a while. I would have been amazed if it came before today. And actually, I have been saying since I had that pain that I reckon it's going to come either Thursday or Friday, potentially even as late as Saturday, but hopefully not later than that. But of course, I'm a bit worried because I had that call with the clinic about my scan being an issue because it's over 3 months old and they're doing it based off my hycosi date and everything. And so I'm like, well, if my period comes later and if I ovulate later, are they just going to not let me do the IUI? Or like, I'm worried about that. I'm hoping if it does go over that date, they'll just charge me. I'll just have to book an extra scan after my period starts and fit it in between that and the IUI time. And I'll be a bit annoyed about having to pay, I think it's £180 just to have this bloody scan done. But I just don't want to miss this IUI cycle. That's my main thing. So fingers crossed. But I think this is the first time in a long time that I've been like, could you please hurry up? I really want my period to come. Don't want the pain, but I want it to come, I want it to start. I want to be able to make that phone call and just start the ball rolling. Oh, that bloody washing machine. Because I am really excited right now, and it's really nice to be feeling excited about doing this because this is how I wanted to feel going into it. So yeah, just fingers crossed that things go right from this point forwards. So it is April 28th today, it's Thursday, and this morning my period finally started. So I'm really pleased about that because I was a bit worried it might take another couple of days, but it has started now. So just about to call the clinic to book in for my first scan. Hi there, I'm calling as I'm due to start an IUI this cycle. My period just started today, so I'm calling up to book in for my first scan. Next Friday. I'm feeling nervous, but also really excited. Oh my goodness. So I've just had my first scan for my IUI. It's 6th of May today. And of course, typically, like, everything I plan is as has been the way the cycle has gone out the window. So I went and had my scan just now. And I went in there and the doctor looked at it and she's like, oh wow, like it's really big already. It's already 17 millimeters or something. And I've been having twinges in my right hip, which kind of to me would signify ovulation coming, and my discharge changed this morning. And I was like, I think this is coming sooner than I think. Anyway, she confirmed that. The doctor who did my scan confirmed that. And she's like, we're going to have to trigger you because otherwise you're going to ovulate around Sunday, and we don't do IUIs on Sunday. So I've just had a shot of Ovitrel, which is like an HCG shot basically, so that they can do my IUI tomorrow afternoon. So I wasn't expecting to have a shot. I thought it was going to be all natural, but they were like, we're going to miss it otherwise and we need to do it on time. So I've just had that done. I think it cost me an extra £40 something to the shot, so it wasn't too much. And I was like, oh, well, whatever, let's do it. So yeah, but now I've got to figure out childcare because my mum's going away. And I'm like, this was not in the plan. And I also really need to get going because she's waiting for me. But yeah, so I've scanned on the way, much sooner than we expected, as is typical of my body, never does anything to plan. Had a shot, and got to wait for this afternoon. They're going to call me back to tell me what time I'm going to have my IUI tomorrow. So I asked the doctor earlier today if I needed to continue taking ovulation tests. And she was like, no, like the Ovitrail will make you ovulate. If you take it, they're just going to be blazing positive. So I don't need to do this, but I already bought all these tests. And I literally only took one this morning. So I was like, I'm just going to test just to see. And sure enough, they are both very positive. So this is like the LH, luteal hormone test strip. And you can see like clearly a peak on there. And then the clear blue digital with a solid smiley face. It's just good to see. This somehow makes it feel much more real. I don't know why, but yeah, so it's done its job. That's the main thing. It is the day. It's the 7th of May. I'm feeling really, really nervous, actually. I'm not even sure what I'm nervous about, whether it's the actual procedure itself, because my Hycosi scan was really uncomfortable. I think that's making me a bit apprehensive and just kind of not knowing what's going to happen. And then there's a bit of me that's like, are you sure you want to do this? Which I think I've expected the whole time, because I've gone on it's been a roller coaster, this whole thing of do I, don't I? But I think this is mainly nerves just about the actual procedure happening. And I've only got like 40 minutes before I need to go. So yeah, really, really starting to set in now. Well, I'm here. I picked up some surprisingly disgusting mini sausages from M&S and some crisps because I felt like I needed to have at least something to eat while I was there because I've no idea how long it's going to be and I was hungry on the way. I have to fill my bladder up for this as well, they said, so I'm really bad at this. So I've been drinking on the way and I do sort of need the loo now, which is good. So I'm going to take this liquid in with me, but yeah, I'm a bit early because I figured one should really be early when getting inseminated. Not really sure. They didn't exactly cover it in my etiquette lessons at school. But I like to be early anyway, otherwise I'd be stressing out. So I think it's now nearly 1 o'clock, which is when they said to get here for to have my insemination at 1:30. So I'm gonna have a little sip and then head inside. So I'll see you on the other side. It's all done. Oh my goodness. I'm currently lying at this very weird angle in my car because I didn't lie down. They literally did the procedure and then straight away I got up and I did some reading online that said if you lie down 15 minutes afterwards it can increase your chances or something. So I just figured, well, I can't lie down across my back seats because you see there's a whopping great big car seat back there. But I figured I'd just lie at this sort of rough lying down angle for a little bit. Will it help or not? Who knows? But yeah, oh my goodness, that was so much better than the Hycosi. I was really, really nervous because I thought, oh God, I don't want to deal with the cramping pain. I haven't taken any pain meds or anything, but honestly, barely felt it. Barely felt it at all. The doctor did it was so good. They had my notes from last time. She used the smallest speculum. She opened it until I was like, yeah, that's enough. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. They did the ultrasound. So I had to have a full bladder this time. They did the ultrasound over the tummy rather than inside. She put the catheter, she cleaned the cervix. Didn't feel that this time. That kind of felt a bit odd last time. Put the catheter in. Didn't feel that at all. No cramping whatsoever. And then I watched the sperm go on the screen. I couldn't feel it either. And I was like, oh my God. It was really quick as well. Like less than 5 minutes and it was done. And I was like, oh, that was so much less stressful than I needed to think about because it was so much better than the Hycosi. Trust me, barely felt it. So yeah, all done. Now I need to go and pick up my smalls and I guess just get on with the rest of the day. And I've booked in a scan. I booked in a blood test, pregnancy blood test for Friday the 20th of May. So 2 weeks time basically. So I'm going to test for the pregnancy test before then. But yeah, now we just have to keep our fingers crossed and see what happens, I guess.